Well, good evening, everyone. This is John Craig,
And this is Sandi.
and it is good to be with you on this third day of the week. It's a Tuesday evening on October 26th, 2021, and it is a live show. So, Bob, if you're out there, we're live.
He might get tired of that after a while. So, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, yes, we are glad that you've joined us today. And just a little bit of information. If you want more of what we teach and our messages, our tour portions, or anything else, you can go to our YouTube site, use Life of Worship Amarillo or John and Sandi Craig in Amarillo, but you'll get there and subscribe, and you can see what's going on at Life of Worship. And we would love to have you there and be a part. And you can always email us too if you have any questions, just as a heads up. And if you ever feel like donating and helping us continue with this ministry, you can go to our website, www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. Click the donate button, and the Justice Fund button will work too. But click one of those buttons and you are there, or you can mail a check, and there's an address on there for snail mail as well.
Well, I did want to say we have an announcement to make.
Oh, I forgot about that announcement. Yes, we do.
It's a big announcement for those of you all that join us on Shabbat for our Torah studies and for our worship service. We have a time change. So what's that time change, Sandi?
Now, all of these times will be Central Time. So everything is being moved up 2 hours. So our tour portion will start at 12 p.m. Central, and our service will begin at 3 p.m. Central Time this week. So, and from here on out. So everything is shifting forward 2 hours, or not forward, behind 2 hours. So just think, 12 o'clock tour portion, yes, 12 noon, and 3 p.m. service. So everybody, please, if you tune in later, you'll still be a part, but you'll miss some stuff.
Yeah, you just have to catch the archive. But so we want to see you live because we like seeing you guys in the chat room with us.
I do.
We love that.
Yep. Anyway, we are continuing our study on Psalm 91. We are on verse 15. Woohoo! So verse 15, and there's a lot packed into this verse. And so we want to get right into it. And let's go ahead and open our word, and let's read Psalm 91. Let's read this response from Yah from 14, 15, and 16.
All right. So I'm reading from the Tree of Life version. Psalm 91, verses 14 through 16. Because he has devoted his love to me, I will deliver him. I will set him securely on high because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble, rescue him, and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation, or my Yeshua.
Yes, you're Yeshua. Okay, so what are we going to dig out first? I want us to look at this word call because it has some interesting things for sure. And we're going to look at it from several different directions. But I first want to just say, just as a reminder, as we're searching things out and we're digging deep, that is so important. And unfortunately, in our society today, information and the accumulation of information is sort of king, so to speak. But ours is, whereas it used to be instruction in righteousness. And that's what we're doing. So, if you wonder why we dig out some things and look at the Hebrew, we don't always do that, but I do it a lot. It's because I'm digging out for the treasure. It's the glory of God to conceal a matter. And what is it? The honor of kings to search it out. And so we're searching. We're trying to really understand and make sure we're not following in line with tradition. And with that being said, I want us to look at this word, kara, which is call, Q-A-R-A. Okay, this number 7121. Okay, and here's some of the things it means. And like I said, we're going to continue this discussion. It means call or name or summon or invite or declare. But it has this undertone that we cannot forget or push aside because it's also associated with sovereignty. Okay, now think about the verse itself. What is it? Call to me and I will answer you. Well, are we addressing someone who is sovereign? Yes. So here it is, this to call, you're establishing a relationship, and you're also establishing a ranked order. You're establishing, hey, you've got this. I can't do this myself. You acknowledge the one who you're calling to, that they've got a superiority over yourself, even at least in something, in an area, right? But when we're talking about Yahweh, we're talking about every area. So you don't normally try to solve the problems of the world and go to the third grader, right? I'm not
No,
saying
of
that the
course not.
grader is lesser, but you're going to have to call out to someone who knows more, who is more abreast of the situation, who knows how to take care of it, how to solve the problem, right?
That's right.
It would be foolishness to call out to someone who knows nothing, you know, unless maybe it's strength. If you need some strength and you need some able-bodied people, but there again, there's even qualifications for that. So here we are. We have this superiority, this ranking order that's established when you call out. And so when we call on Yahweh, what are we doing? We are acknowledging that you are the authority. You are sovereign. You're the one who created everything. You're the one who has the answer. And here's the next thing. We invite him to give us instruction, and we've got to carry it through. We don't just want a little bit of knowledge. We want to do what he says. We want to act out what he says, not just, okay, I called out to you. That's a good idea. That's a good suggestion. I'm going to go look at some other sources. No, we call on him because we intend to do what he calls us to do. At least I hope so. All right. So here we have this call, the root kara.
Okay.
And
Can I say something too?
sure.
I don't want to jump ahead because it may already be in your notes, but I was just, that same word is used in Joel 2:32 just to bring emphasis to it. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahweh shall be delivered. It's calling out to him. And that's like you're saying, you're calling out to someone who is greater in order to receive a deliverance, a salvation, a healing, to be made whole, all of that fun stuff that goes with that.
Yes, exactly. And it also has this implication that you have this specific request and you want a specific answer. Which when I want help or salvation, I want a specific answer. I don't know about you. It's not just this general cry out, I'm in distress, help. No, you're in a situation where you need something specifically addressed. And hello, Twyla, Mom. It's good to see you here with us, as well as Joe. So, and everybody else I don't know who you are in the room, but it's good to have you here. Anyway, so we also need to understand who is speaking in this verse, because Yahweh's telling us to have kara intentions when we come to him. Do we come to him for suggestion? Do we?
No.
We come to him with intentions of following through. So he says, be specific with me. Call on me directly. Expect me to answer, because I'm going to answer you. And you better have your ears open so you can hear. It's not just a general suggestion on, hey, man, I need some help. It's talking about there's something going on, a specific thing going on, and you want the answer. You want his intervention. So,
hey, so Sandi, you and I have had a conversation. Actually, we've had several conversations about this, and I don't mean to kick you off your stride here, but it has to do with, over the years in pastoring, how we've had the opportunity to counsel with a lot of different people from all different age groups. And we were talking and even more specifically, I won't just say more specifically, but in regards to those that came out of our youth and became young adults. And we talk about how we had conversations with them and how they were literally calling out to us for advice. And when they were actually saying, well, we really don't want to listen to what you have to say. Just give us maybe some suggestions that what we have found in their lifestyle and the decisions that were made, they didn't have any intent to follow anyway. And
yes, keep going.
So we look at, they were calling out to us, looking at us as like a
sounding
authority
board
figure. Yeah. Someone that had been a little bit down the road a little bit further than they had, and then they're like, nah, and they might have followed it for just a short time, and then there's like, no, and their lifestyles can conform back to the way that they had been living before.
Well, it's because we are the authority figures in people's lives as their pastors. I mean, that is a specific as their shepherds. So Yahweh, and we're held accountable for that, and we're held accountable for our words. But I would agree with you, more often than not, people come, and they come in a time of distress. They come in a time where they need help, or they want an answer, a specific answer, actually, usually. And we bring them back to the word, and this is what the word says. And they don't like the answer. They don't want to have to do what that would require.
By their decisions, by the fruit of what happened afterwards, we can see that that's exactly right.
Well, but not only, yes, by the fruit that happens, but when we're sitting in there with a conversation with them, you can see it in somebody's eyes and their countenance and the way they hold themselves up, that we're just there and just giving a suggestion, even though they came to us for an answer, but they didn't want the answer that we gave.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so they sit back, and life falls into disarray and problems. And here's the next step. Then the person's, well, I went to you. Well, you didn't listen. So they get offended at you and they leave, because they wanted a specific answer for a specific reason, for a specific lifestyle. And we didn't hold up to that. We weren't their friend. We were their pastor. We were their shepherd. Joe says many of them are looking for someone to agree with them. And that's right. Yeah, they're hoping that we agree with it.
Yeah.
Oh, what you're doing is fine. That's fine. You know what? That'll be okay. No, we can't do that, because we are held to a higher power. Yahweh himself is who we're accountable to, not man. And it's heartbreaking sometimes when you see, I can't see the mess that people walk into. I can't tell you how many times I told you not to do that. I warned you that this was a possibility if you continue down this path. And it hurts my heart to think about the messes and the people that we love that have walked into them as pastors, because as pastors, we love our people. But as people forget, it's like that survivor mentality. They want an authority, but they don't want an authority. Who do you think you are to tell me what to do?
Yeah.
I don't need a pastor. Well, the word specifically outlines teachers and pastors and evangelists and prophets and apostles, and we can go on. The word does outline positions of authority. Why? Because too many chiefs spoil everything. And anyway, that's sort of a rabbit trail, but it really plays into this because we look to God for the same thing.
It's the same type of thing where we had somebody that came across with a conversation as we were, talking about the clean and the unclean and, food, what's food. And the lady came back and, we defined what food was, and we went to scripture. This is what food is, and this is what food is not. And the lady came back, well, I prayed about it, and I felt like the Holy Spirit told me it's okay to eat pig.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. They wanted to know, but they didn't want to know, because the voice in their flesh, that thing that's in their flesh, longed for an answer that they didn't require them to make the change that needed to be necessary to do Bible things in Bible ways.
Right. And Joe says the flesh does not like discipline, and it's true. Yeah. And she also went on to say they prefer the tree of good, the knowledge of good and evil, over the tree of life. And that's true. That's true. We would rather play and compromise, be lukewarm, and be spewed out than sacrifice is a word that many of us don't want to put up or think about or even live after. But our life is not our own. We have been purchased with a price, and our life is not our own. And we just think we're in charge of everything. Yes. So, anyway, Kara, Qara. You call on me and expect me to answer you with specific information. That's what we're talking about. And if you think he's going to be a liar, that Yahweh's a liar when he gives us the answer? Do you think he's only going to answer sometimes? Well, sometimes the answer is no.
And he's certainly not going to contradict himself.
He's not going to contradict himself. He's not going to contradict his word. He's not going to contradict. Yeshua is the word. So we've got to understand that our actions should be very specific. We need to be asking God directly about specific things and expect that he would answer. I always tell people when they come to service, expect Yahweh to move. We need to expect him to answer, because he says, if you call upon me, I'll answer you. All right. Ask and it shall be given. Ask and keep on asking. We can start bringing forth scripture, but don't always think he does things the way we think he should do them in our timing. It just doesn't happen like that. So we instead reject his word and go on living like we live in, and we treat him just like you and I have been treated as pastors before. It's pretty simple. The truth is, when those kind of things happen and we ignore what Yahweh's told us to do, or even others with authority, but specifically Yahweh, what's happening here? We don't value what he says. We don't value his word. So when you come and say, well, I know his word says this, and this person might always quote, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, but he told me this, because we don't value enough what his word says. And I think that goes up to what you and I, with the specific example of us, our word was not valued. And that's, I mean, we know each other by our fruit. We know each other by our fruit, and what we do is part of that fruit. So you say you believe, but you don't really value what's being spoken to you by Yahweh. So do you believe? I mean, if you don't trust him and you don't believe he's sovereign because you won't act upon his word, then do we truly believe his word?
Well, it's just James, as James says, or Yaakov in the Brit Hadashah. He says, you say that you have faith. I'll show you my faith by what I do. Or let's not get caught up in faith, because sometimes faith is kind of one of those epithelial, kind of those, off-world terms, but it's actually, what's our belief? What action do we put into what we say that's coming out of our heart? And James, Yaakov is his name, it says, I'm going to show you by the things that this is what my lifestyle is. My lifestyle, and he's going back to my lifestyle is going to represent that I do Bible things in Bible ways. And that's it. I mean, if we say we have faith, then we're not trying to make Bible things conform to the way I want to live. What is the authority there? Or who is the greater authority, so to speak? Because is it the word living in us, or are we just trying to put the word in a box and take out the things that fit?
See, I love what Joe just said. She says, man shows such honor towards man-made laws, yet we do not believe nor honor Yah's law, Yah's word. And with that, think about this. When we don't call on Yahweh in every single specific thing in our life, especially decisions and crossroads, but other things as well, you know why we don't do it? Because we don't value his direct answer, his specific answers. We would rather work things out ourselves. Oh, that's a little thing. I don't need to ask God. Yeah, we do. I mean, you hear me even on searching for something. What's something I tell you? You're searching for something, or you've lost something. What do I say?
Pray. Have you prayed?
Have you prayed about it yet, John? Sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's no. We are supposed to call upon him. We are supposed to look to him as our answers, and the one who leads and directs our life. But we don't, it goes back to what we've said already, that we may not like what he has to say. And so we think it's so much better to leave God out and make life in our own desires. What is that saying? It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. Hello?
Yeah, that's what it is.
And when I say that, you know what? I'll just do it and ask forgiveness for it later. Like it's a slot machine. God's a slot machine, but he's not. So we use the excuse that Yah's too busy. This is just a little thing. This really doesn't matter. I can handle this one. Whatever. Again, excuses. Any excuse is going to do if you're going to use excuses. But we are to call upon him. He's the one that's supposed to direct our life. So we can't say, hey, I'm leaving you out on this one, Yahweh. Now, I know specifically in this psalm, we're thinking much more a bigger picture here, but this word call, it's talking about calling upon him, and it's the same word used here. So yeah, there's big things and there's small things, but we get the answer. He is sovereign. He is sovereign.
I have something to say about that too, and that is in regards to the gematria of that word, which is 301. Look at the words that line up with that. There's a word called osh or osh, which is foundation. Another word that's same is menorah, has the same numeric value. Menorah does. And one other thing that has the same numeric value as kara, and that's surah, which is a rock. So we think about, the act of calling is very foundational in our lifestyle. Is that it's almost an expectation, and yet it's a rock which is solid. We're supposed to build our house upon the rock, and
because he is the rock,
and he is the rock, and he's the menorah. And he's the light. And we think about the 7 lights of the menorah, of course, with the Shemash candle in the middle, the servant candle, and all which align with the 7 spirits of Yah. What a powerful statement then when you bring that idea into this whole issue of calling out, calling on the name of Yah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we look at the word, when we're looking at, I will answer him, what does that mean? Again, we can't look to him, to Yahweh, like he's a slot machine and he's going to ching, ching, cha-ching. That's not what it's talking about. But we ultimately, when we look at this psalm, we know that Yahweh has everything covered for our protection if we have a relationship with him. And that's one thing we've got to realize. We can't pick apart. I mean, we have been picking apart to study the language, but we've got to realize that it's painting a whole picture, that this whole psalm and what he's doing in us and for us and through us is about the relationship that we've established with him. So what constitutes the relationship? That God's going to provide this protection when he answers us? Well, it's more than just going to congregation. It's more than going to church on Shabbat or on Sunday for that matter. It's about that relationship. It's not about a checklist. It's truly about your heart. It's truly about your heart. It's so here again, when we're looking at Korah, there are actually several ways this word can be used. It could be a call for help. It can be a call to make a proclamation. It can be an invitation, or it could even be a cry for an answer, cry for deliverance. There are many ways this call can go forth. The word for answer is anah, A-N-A-H, which means pay attention, respond, to give a reply. And it's calling on him. It's sort of this almost conversational, because that relationship has been established. So when you intimately know your God, when you intimately know Yahweh, there's this love relationship that's you're able to carry out this conversation, this ongoing conversation, this open-ended conversation. And it's not, you're not walking in a room, hello, 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 are you there? Hello, hello. It's not. He is there. Because you know him intimately, you call like Yeshua, and he's right there ready to answer you because you've been in this conversation, in this relationship. So you think about this. You've talked before when we were dating and I ended up in the hospital. At my call, you came. And even now, if there's a big emergency, hopefully, if you're close, if I call on you as your bride, as your wife, you come, because there's this relationship that's been established and we carry out this conversation, right? As husband and wife, there shouldn't be this prodding. I really, really need you now. Please listen to me. And that's not the way it is. You know the tone of voice, there's an intimacy that's been established. So by the mere timbre of my voice and vice versa, we sort of know how serious this thing is, this, when we've been called upon. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And this calling unto Yahweh is also about this bond and relationship. And we're gonna hear Yahweh speak before we even have a chance to cry out, because he's there. He says he knows our prayers. He knows our concerns before we even ask. So Psalm 91 is about not living in fear, and you don't when you're really with him, you're bonded to him in love, and you have this relationship where you can call him by whatever name, whether he's your deliverer, whether he's your strong tower, whether he is your provider, whatever it is. And because out of the abundance of your heart, he is the most important thing in your life. And that's this Korah, this conversational Korah that's listed here, is what I really want to get the point across, is that it's about that relationship. It's an intimate conversation, really, because you know one another. Just as when a wife would call to a husband, you wouldn't want me to be in any situation that would harm me or that would put me in a compromising position or left in front of my enemies by myself. I would call upon you and you would come. And how much more does he do that for us? Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that word also relates to the eye, and it's nothing escapes his eye. So think about this: when Amariah is in the house, what does a parent or a grandparent do when Amariah, a 3-year-old, a toddler, a little older than a toddler, a child, is in the house? And do we just let her go off and do her own thing and be running outside to the street and running into the backyard with the above ground water storage system? Or are we keeping a watchful eye on her? And so because there's this tremendous oversight relationship that we have with our granddaughter, because we want to ensure her safety and her protection, we always have our eye aware of where she's at, and we're listening. Because if she cries out, if she does something, if she, hurts herself or something like that takes place, what is our immediate response as a parent or as a grandparent? We go and we check and we investigate, and what's wrong, what's going on here. And even if it's something that, it got too quiet, we're like, okay, what's going on in here? What are you doing? Because we want to make sure that she's not getting into something that she shouldn't be getting into, but we're also overseeing her to make sure she's okay. And we're there at a moment's notice. We're not far away. We're paying attention. We're within eye distance. We're within ear distance. And isn't that what our Father does?
Isn't he within eye distance and ear distance? So to use your words back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of this concept of that he will answer because that's where he's at. That's how close it is. And sometimes when we live our lives and we're out here in the big old world and the big old vast expanse of creation, and we feel in the midst of chaos, confusion, crowds of people, or nobody around, that we do have this feeling of being all alone and being limited, and there's nobody except us. And yet here he is. He is right there. He really, really is that close, paying attention. He's got his eye on us.
Right. And that's, he does have his eye on us, and we should never forget that. And this whole psalm, one more time, is really, we almost see this progression of relationship here with him, from trusting him and as our refuge and our atonement, as our fortress, as our shield, and being, so we can behold him with our eyes, to forming this intimacy with him, this chazak. And so we see this progression in this psalm, and I don't ever, we just need to follow through with his word. We need to heed his word, and we need to have that relationship, and that is the bottom line. I want us to move forward now, because I want us to look at the word sarah, Tsarah. And we see that in our psalm again. Let's look at this verse 15. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him, and I will be with him in trouble, and I will deliver him, and I will honor him. Okay. So here we are with this word zarah, trouble, and we see it all over scripture. So we actually see it for the very first time in Genesis 35:3, where it says, so Yaakov said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods which are among you, and purify yourselves, and change your garments, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been here with me wherever I've gone. Again, that shows relationship right there. What we've just been speaking at. He answered him in his day of distress, and he's been there. Wherever he goes, he's right there. So let's look at these words: anguish, distress, trouble. They all have been used for, the zarah has been used for each and every one of them. And we're not really going to look at, is this trouble or distress caused by man, or is it just happenstance? We're not really going to go there right now. But the anguish that, let's think about Joseph. Joseph experienced anguish that was thrust upon him. And then his brothers experienced trouble from their own deeds. But Yahweh's still the answer. Okay? So let's look at the paleo, so we can see a little bit, even the picture form of what maybe that will give us a little bit more insight into this word zarah. Okay, so we have this zodi, this resh the hay is the root here. Okay, and what's a zodi? It is this picture of a fish hook, and it means to catch, to harvest, to be unable to escape, to need, to have a strong desire or trouble. You might check the chat, John, please.
Oh,
okay. So here we have a zodi, this fish hook, to catch, to harvest, to be unable to escape, to need, to have a strong desire or trouble. And then we have the resh, and this is this head, and it means, as we've talked about before, master and leader or prince. Okay. And then we have the hay, which the hands lifted up. Again, behold, reveal, to pay attention to what follows. Also, the Holy Spirit as the revelator. So we have all of this here. So when you put those things together, this zarah, this trouble, what does it tell us? Okay. And this is just the first layer of this word. Okay. We're just starting here, because you put it all together. Is it encouraging? Is it discouraging? Is there hope? Well, let's see what it says, because here it says, we behold that something is mastering us that brings trouble that we can't escape. That's what those 3 letters together mean. And that's true. We behold that something's mastering us that brings trouble that we can't escape. We can't take care of it by ourselves. Right?
That's right.
And you may say, well, that's discouraging. How is that any help? Well, to add to that meaning of that word, let's also look at the numeric value of each word, the gematria of it, because azadi is the number 90, and it refers to the conclusion of a matter followed by judgment. The resh is 200. It reminds us of the insufficiency of man compared to the sufficiency of God. Of course, he's sovereign, right? We're not. He is. And the hay is number 5. And of course, everybody can relate to the 5, the grace and unmerited favor. And so when we add the meaning to what we just said, remember, was we behold that something is mastering us that brings trouble and we can't escape. We have this picture: trouble, tribulation, anguish, and affliction are present because of the insufficiency of man. Man has a fallen, sinful nature, and he can't escape these things in this world. But by the grace of God and and Yahweh's sufficiency, there's going to be a day of judgment that will stop the trouble for all time. And you may say, well, how does that help us now? That's just part of the meaning of this word. And I want us to establish that, because oftentimes the trouble that's our way, when we try to fix it, when we try to bring forth our answers, the trouble just gets worse, or it may even spread to other areas of our lives, or we may think it's taken care of for a time, but it rears its ugly head one more time. So who do we look for to deliverance? Of course, it's Yahweh. David looked to Yahweh. Let's look at Psalm 138:7. Psalm 138:7. 138:7.
Okay. And that reads, though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Thou shalt stretch forth thine hand against the wrath of mine enemies, and thy right hand shall save me.
Okay. Is that a question? Is Yahweh telling us what he's going to do? Did David know his source? Did David know who the answer was in the trouble that he couldn't escape from himself? Did he expect an answer? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Because the word David used for trouble here is zerah. And it reminds us that we are to seek our answers in Yahweh during tribulation, because he is the one that's going to revive us. He's the one that's going to save us, because he is our protection. He is the answer. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 4, verses 30 through 31.
Deuteronomy 4, 30 and 31.
30 through 31, yes.
Yeah, when thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee in the latter days, if thou turn to Yahweh thy Elohim, and shall be obedient unto his voice, for Yahweh thy Elohim is a merciful Yah, he will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which he sware unto them.
That's encouraging too, but guess what the word for tribulation is? Zerah. Distress, trouble, anguish, tribulation. And this is even being referred to in the latter days. I don't know, the latter days that are coming, for that word tribulation that we usually use, we can't get ourselves out of that trouble. And that's why one of the reasons this is Psalm 91 is a psalm for every day, but specifically we see it for the latter days. 1,000 shall fall at our side, 10,000 at our right hand. So here we go. This zerah, this tribulation, our hope in these times of distress is to be placed in him and in his character, because he will never leave us, nor will he forsake us. And then John also, he said something encouraging that Yeshua was telling his disciples as his final instructions before his arrest and his trial and his crucifixion. His very last words before his prayer were to be encouragement in the preparation for the days ahead, the trouble that they were going to face, the things that were going to unfold in their lives. And that, let's look at John 16:33. John 16:33.
And John 16:33 reads, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world."
I have overcome the world. Be of good cheer. Okay? So this verse tells us that Yah is with us when? Well, he's with us all the time. He says he's not going to leave us or forsake us. But because we have that relationship, that conversation, he is there to deliver us from trouble. He he's there. He's there to answer us when we call this Zarah. When we look at John 16:33, and it says, "You have trouble in the world, but let your heart," here's another version, "let your heart be brave, for I've overcome the world." That's encouraging, yes. And maybe you think, wow, I've had trouble after trouble after trouble. I need a break. Well, we've got to rest in him. He has to be our rest and our source. So here we are. Is there a reward to keep on going? Yeah, because he's the answer. He is the one that makes a way where there seems to be no way. And he's the one that turns everything around for his glory, which is encouraging. Now, the Greek word for this is thlipsis, number 2347 in the Greek. And it also comes from tribulation and affliction. But its root is to crush, to press, to break. Now, when I hear those words, it reminds me of when I've taught specifically on oil, the olive, as well as the grape. What happens to them for the oil to flow, for the juice to flow? They have to be crushed, to press, to break. That's tribulation. Is it what we want to walk through? No. But he says he's going to be there with us, so we're not alone. We've not been forsaken. So the victory is there and it's coming, but sometimes we have to walk through that. Joe said, in order to birth a child, there's contraction after contraction. Yet, when they're all done, what are we? You are blessed. And that is the perfect example. The perfect example, Joe, because that blessing is there, but you have to walk through the tribulation before in order to receive the blessing. So here we see this word Zarah one more time. And I want us to look at, it can be a threat from an enemy, like a rival, or even an enemy that you didn't know was a rival through jealousy, through that you have a relationship with someone and there's something going on. It's kingdom against kingdom, whether they know it or not. And so it creates trouble in your life. And it can also mean a time of extreme affliction or stress. Both have this, there's both of these in this word Zarah. Both of these. So in addition, we're going to face an enemy, the one who's threatening source of despair, whether we find him in people or whether it's because of what Hasatan's doing. There's enemies out there, whether we like it or not. But Yeshua, again, is the one, because we are in covenant with him, our enemies are his enemies, just as his enemies are ours. That's why he tells us to hate what he hates and love what he loves. So we've got to look at what he's saying, because the fact is he has overcome the world, right? Righteousness will prevail. He won. We need to enforce the victory in the battle we're in. And and how do we do that? We trust in him and his word. And when we call upon him, he answers us and he hears us. He's not turning a deaf ear to us. He hears us. But again, we need to have that relationship going. We need to have it. And I want to specifically focus on the trouble that comes from those that we thought we had a relationship with, that we love, that we've made a part of our family. Maybe they were part of the congregation, and there's just something that happens sometimes. And that sometimes is trouble that you don't even know how. You think you try to do everything right and it's still there. And then we have to look at him. He will make those things right for us. Because again, now he may tell us to do something and we do it for sure. But I think it's interesting that this word Zarah also talks about this rivalry. And so my encouragement for today is that, again, one more time, we need to look to him in relationship. And we need to remember that trouble does come our way, but he's going to turn it around for his glory. And that these promises are for those, they aren't for those that have ignored him each and every day, and then all of a sudden something happens and we turn to him, though he can move that way. But this is really about that relationship that has matured and has gone on, that we have made him number one in our lives, and we choose to call upon him and do what he says, not just use him as a sounding board. So how do we call upon Yahweh? Maybe we need to change our perspective. Maybe we need to, even though others in authority, we need to realize if we've been one of those that says, I don't really like that advice, or I know that you've been placed, that Yah's placed you as an authority over me, but I don't like what you said, so forget it. We need to examine our own heart whenever we receive correction, even from a friend like that, because, or direction. It doesn't have to be correction, it can be direction. And then we need to remember ultimately that Yahweh's word is true. It doesn't return void. And though it may not be comfortable, though we may not like it, when we call upon him, he will answer, and we need to hearken to his voice. And I think we will finish this up next week.
Good word, Sandi. Good word.
All right. So I didn't give you the heads up. So go ahead and you can go ahead and bow out for a minute. And one more time, I just want to thank you guys for joining us. If you could give us a thumbs up, and or like our program, or share it, or anyway, if you've missed some of these teachings, just go back. We've been doing them for months and breaking things apart, and I think there's value to it. And anyway, so just go back and listen. Now for what's up, we've got news, and man, there's so many things that are happening and around the world, and you just can't get it anywhere else. I mean, you can, but you can't get it on regular networks with the secular media. You have to really search for truth, because the world tries to hide the truth about what's going on in the society around us. So my encouragement to you is join us through Twitch or through lamnetwork.tv, and join John for the news, the Craig Report, because I'm going to be there, and I know every time I listen, he has something to say and something to add, and that I didn't know about. I'm like, okay, I didn't know about that. But if we don't know our enemy, how can we stand against him? In battle, the first thing you do is you make sure you know your enemy. Know their tactics, know what they're going to do, so you know and you're prepared on how to defeat the enemy. So here we go. I'm just saying that. Join us for the Craig Report that's coming up next. So I'm going to leave here for this part of the program, and we are excited to see you directly. We'll see you then. Shalom.